Right now, you are thinking in words. You have been thinking in words your entire life. Every plan you have ever made, every memory you have ever kept, every person you have ever loved, you have thought about them in language. But there was a version of your species that had none of this. No words, no sentences, no inner voice. And the difference between that version and you is almost everything. Let us start with something that will genuinely make you uncomfortable to think about. You do not just use language to communicate with other people. You use language to think, to remember, to plan, to feel. Language is not a tool you pick up when you need it. It is the medium your consciousness runs in, which means the question, what if humans never developed language, is not just asking what the world would look like. It is asking whether the you that is watching this video would exist at all. Let us first understand what language actually is. Because most people think of language as words. But language is much more specific than that. Animals communicate. Bees do a waggle dance that tells other bees exactly where food is located, direction, distance, quality. Whales sing songs that travel thousands of miles across oceans. Chimpanzees use dozens of distinct gestures and calls. But none of that is language, not in the way humans have it, because human language has something no other communication system on Earth has: recursion. Recursion is the ability to embed ideas inside other ideas infinitely. The dog bit the man. The dog that lives next door bit the man who used to work at the shop that closed last year. You can keep going forever. No other animal communication system can do this. And recursion is what makes it possible to talk about things that do not exist. Things in the past, things in the future, things that are imaginary, things that might happen, things that should happen, things you wish had happened. A dog can communicate, "I am hungry right now." A dog cannot communicate, "I was hungry yesterday and I am worried I might be hungry again tomorrow, and I think we should make a plan about that." That ability to think and communicate about things beyond the immediate present is the foundation of almost everything that makes human civilization possible. Now, let us talk about when language actually appeared, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. The honest answer is we do not know exactly when language appeared. Language does not fossilize. Words leave no bones, sentences leave no stones. The direct evidence is gone, but we have indirect evidence. And the indirect evidence points to somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 years ago. One of the most important pieces of indirect evidence is the hyoid bone, the small horseshoe-shaped bone in your throat that anchors the muscles needed for complex speech. Ancient Neanderthal hyoid bones found in archaeological sites look essentially identical to modern human hyoid bones, which suggests Neanderthals may have had the physical capability for complex speech. And then there is the FOXP2 gene, sometimes called the language gene. Humans have a unique version of this gene that is critical for the fine motor control needed for speech. When children are born with mutations in FOXP2, they have severe difficulty producing and understanding speech and grammar. The gene is not metaphorically linked to language. It is physically required for it. So now, let us ask the real question. If language never appeared, what does the world actually look like? Starting with the most immediate consequence. Without language, cooperation becomes dramatically limited. You can cooperate on things happening right now, in front of you, that you can point at. But you cannot cooperate on anything that requires shared planning about the future, which means group hunting of large animals becomes nearly impossible. Coordinating an ambush requires language. Assigning roles requires language. Communicating the plan requires language, which means the food supply shrinks dramatically, which means the group cannot support as many people, which means the population stays small. But the food problem is actually not the most significant consequence of no language. The most significant consequence is what happens to knowledge. Language is the technology that allows knowledge to move from one mind to another. Without language, everything you learn dies with you. Think about what that means. If you discovered something important, a new food source, a better way to make a tool, a plant that heals a wound you could show someone, but you could not explain it. And when you died, the discovery died with you. Without language, human knowledge cannot accumulate across generations. Each generation essentially starts from scratch, learning through trial and error what the previous generation already learned through trial and error. And this is why language is the single most powerful survival technology our species has ever developed. Not fire, not tools, not agriculture, language. Because language is the technology that makes all other technologies transferable and improvable across time. Without language, fire stays discovered but never systematically improved. Tools get made, but the best techniques die with the person who invented them. Every generation of humans reinventing the wheel, literally. Now, let us talk about what language did to group size, because this one surprises almost everyone. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar studied primate group sizes and brain sizes and found a consistent relationship. Bigger brain relative to body size, bigger social group the animal can manage. When he applied this to humans, the math suggested humans should be able to manage social groups of around 150 people. This became known as Dunbar's number. 150 is the point beyond which you cannot personally know everyone, cannot track all the relationships, cannot maintain the social bonds that hold a group together through trust and reciprocity. But here is what Dunbar argued. Language, specifically the ability to gossip, allowed humans to break past this limit. To maintain social bonds with people they rarely saw in person. Gossip sounds trivial. It is not trivial. Gossip is how humans maintain social knowledge about people they cannot constantly monitor directly. Who is trustworthy? Who cheated last time? Who helped when they did not have to? Without language, you cannot gossip. Without gossip, you cannot maintain social bonds beyond direct personal contact. Without those bonds, you cannot have groups larger than Dunbar's number of 150. And 150 people cannot build a city, cannot build an army, cannot build a civilization. 150 people is a village. And it stays a village forever. Now, let us talk about something that most people have never considered. What language did to time. Specifically to the human relationship with the future. Without language, you are essentially trapped in the present. You can have instincts about the future. Animals do this. They migrate, they store food, they build nests. But these are biological programs, not conscious plans. A conscious plan requires language. Because a conscious plan requires you to construct a sequence of future events in your mind, events that do not yet exist, and hold them there long enough to act on them. Try to plan tomorrow without using words. Not just without speaking, without inner words either. It is nearly impossible. The moment you try, words rush in to fill the planning space. Without the ability to consciously plan the future, agriculture becomes impossible. Agriculture is the ultimate future-oriented activity. You plant something now, you do nothing with it for months. You harvest it much later. Every step requires holding a future state in mind. No agriculture means no food surplus. No food surplus means no cities. No cities means no specialization. No specialization means no science. No science means no technology beyond the most basic tools. Now, here is something that will genuinely surprise you. Language did not just change what humans could do. Language changed what humans could feel. Emotions exist without language. Fear, anger, joy, disgust. These are pre-linguistic. Animals have them, babies have them, before they have words. Language did not create emotion, but language created emotions that cannot exist without it. Guilt, shame, pride, nostalgia, anticipation, hope, regret. These require language because they require thinking about things that are not happening right now. You cannot feel guilty without language. Guilt requires you to hold a past action in mind, evaluate it against a moral standard, and project how it affected another person. That is language-based cognition. You cannot feel hope without language. Hope requires you to imagine a future state that does not yet exist and invest emotionally in its possibility. Without language, you cannot construct the future state to hope for. Without language, the emotional world is immediate and reactive. Something happens, you feel something about it, the feeling passes. No rumination, no anticipation, no guilt that lasts for years, no hope that sustains you through difficulty. Which sounds like it might be better. No guilt, no anxiety, No rumination, but here is what you also lose. No hope, no anticipation of good things coming. No nostalgia, the warm feeling of a good memory. No pride in something you worked hard to achieve. No love that deepens over time through shared stories and shared language. Love without language is possible. Pair bonding exists in many species without language, but love that deepens through conversation, love that builds through shared stories, love that survives distance through letters and calls, that is language dependent. Now, let us talk about identity, because this is where the language question gets most personal, most uncomfortable, and most important. You have an identity, a sense of who you are, a self. A continuous narrative that connects the you of 10 years ago to the you of today to the you of 10 years from now. That narrative, the story of who you are, is built from language. It is made of the stories you tell about yourself, the memories you have labeled and stored in words, the values you have articulated, the goals you have named. Without language, the continuous narrative self does not exist. There is a being, there is experience, there is sensation. But the thread that connects those experiences into a coherent story of one person across time, that thread is made of language. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Would you exist without language? Not your body. Your body would exist, but the you that has a name, a history, a personality, dreams for the future, a sense of what matters and why, would that you exist? The honest answer is probably not. Not in any form you would recognize as yourself. The self as we experience it is a language-based construction, a story we tell continuously about who we are. Now, let us look at the world without language from the outside. What does the planet look like if humans never develop language? No cities. That is the most obvious thing. Cities require coordinating thousands of people across time and space on tasks that none of them can directly observe. That requires language at every level. No writing. Writing is language made visible. No language, no writing, which means no history. No science, no law, no religion as we know it. No philosophy, no literature, no accumulated human record of any kind. No religion. Because religion requires the ability to communicate about things that cannot be seen, about meaning, about why we are here, about what happens after death. All of that requires language. No law. Law is language. Law is the codification of social agreements in words. Without language, there are social behaviors. There is dominance and submission. But there is no law, because law requires agreed-upon rules that can be stated, debated, and enforced through language. No money. Money is a shared fiction, a collective agreement that this piece of metal or paper represents value. That agreement is maintained entirely through language. Without language, there is barter, immediate exchange, no abstract value storage. Think about how much of modern human life is built on shared linguistic fictions. Money, nations, laws, corporations, human rights. All of these exist only because enough people agree through language that they exist. Without language, none of those agreements are possible, which means the entire institutional structure of human civilization simply does not exist. Not just reduced, not just different, gone. So what do humans look like in this world? They look remarkably like other great apes. Small bands, maybe 20 to 50 individuals, highly intelligent, capable of impressive tool use and problem solving, but fundamentally reactive to the present, rather than proactive about the future. They would have emotions, they would have relationships, they would have social hierarchies, they would mourn their dead. They would play, but they would not tell stories about any of it. And without stories, without the ability to make experience mean something through narrative, the experience passes and leaves nothing. No lesson, no wisdom, no warning to the next generation. The human population in this world stays small. Researchers estimate that without the cooperative advantages language enables, humanity might have peaked at a few million individuals spread thinly across the warmer parts of the planet. A few million spread across the planet, each group isolated, each group limited, each group smart but not able to compound that intelligence across generations, capable of brilliance, incapable of civilization. And The planet around them, the natural world, would be dramatically different. Because the single largest driver of biodiversity loss and ecosystem destruction in the last 10,000 years has been language-enabled human civilization. Without language, humans are still part of the ecosystem rather than the force reshaping it. Still subject to the same constraints as every other large mammal. Still limited by what the local environment can provide. Which raises the most uncomfortable question of this entire thought experiment. Was language and everything it unleashed good? Or is the honest answer more complicated than that? Language enabled medicine that saves millions of lives. Language also enabled propaganda that has led to the deaths of millions. Language enabled the sharing of ideas that liberate people. Language enabled the ideologies that have enslaved them. Language is the most powerful amplifier ever invented. It amplifies everything humans are capable of, the generosity and the cruelty, the wisdom and the stupidity, the love and the hatred, and it projects them across time and space and into the minds of billions. Without language, humans are limited in both their capacity for good and their capacity for harm. With language, both capacities become essentially unlimited. Now, here is what I want you to actually think about when this video ends. Because there is a personal dimension to this thought experiment that most people miss. You are having a conversation with yourself right now. An inner monologue. A running commentary on your experience. You have been having it your entire life. That voice, the one running right now as you watch this, is not you. It is something you do. Most people mistake the voice for the self. But the voice is a tool. A language tool. The self that is aware of the voice is something deeper. Every meditation tradition in human history has pointed at this. The voice is not the self. Quiet the voice which is possible, and you find something underneath it that was there before the words started and will be there when they stop. Which means there is something in you that predates language. Something that was there before you learned your first word. Something you share with every animal that has ever lived. Pure awareness. Pure experience. Before the commentary starts, language gave us almost everything, but it also buried something. The direct experience of being alive before it gets translated into words is something most modern humans rarely access. Your pre-language ancestor lived entirely in that direct experience. No filter of words between sensation and feeling. No commentary on the sunset. Just the sunset. No internal narrative about the meal, just the taste. This is not romanticizing the pre-language existence. That existence was dangerous and short and painful in ways modern humans almost never experience. But there was something in it, a quality of direct presence that language inevitably costs us. Language is the greatest gift our species ever gave itself. And like all the greatest gifts, it came with costs that were not immediately visible. The inner critic, the voice that tells you are not good enough, not smart enough, not doing enough, that voice does not exist without language. Animals do not have inner critics. Babies before language do not have inner critics. The anxiety about the future, the 3am worry, spiral the loop of what if that will not let you sleep, none of that exists without language. You need words to worry. Worry is a language activity. Existential dread, the awareness that you will die and that you do not know what that means, is a language-created problem. You need language to understand mortality. You need language to dread it. So here is the strange gift that this thought experiment gives you. The awareness that the voice in your head is a tool. Not the truth. Not the self. A tool. The inner critic is using the tool badly. The worry spiral is the tool running without a useful purpose. The existential dread is the tool applied to questions it cannot resolve. And if it is a tool, it can be used better. It can be directed, it can be quieted when it is not helping, it can be pointed at useful questions rather than unanswerable ones. Your ancestors before language lived without the inner critic, without the worry spiral, without the existential dread. They also lived without hope, without deep love built through conversation, without the ability to make their lives mean something through story. Language gave us both, the wound and the ability to heal it. the problem and the tool to solve it, the question and the capacity to sit with it, the darkness and the stories that make the darkness bearable. Now, here is the most remarkable thing about language, the thing that I think gets missed most often. Language is how humans defeat death, not literally, but functionally. Without language, everything you know, everything you have learned, everything you have understood about life dies completely when you die. The person is gone, and so is everything they contained. With language, you can put what you know into words, and those words can outlive you. By years, by centuries, by millennia. The thoughts of people dead for 2,000 years are sitting in books right now, waiting for you to read them. Every book you have ever read, you were in contact with a mind that no longer exists. The mind of the author reached across time through language and touched your mind. That is not a small thing. That is extraordinary. Without language, that is impossible. Every mind that ever lived would be completely sealed. Everything they understood, inaccessible. The accumulated wisdom of 100 billion humans gone, starting over every generation, forever. With language, every mind that ever thought something worth keeping has contributed to what you know right now. You are not just one person. You are the beneficiary of every teacher, every writer, every storyteller, every parent who ever found words for something true. Right now, as you watch this, you are doing something that your ancestors 300,000 years ago could not do. You are receiving the thoughts of another mind, directly, across whatever distance separates us. That is what language is. Not just words, not just grammar. The technology that allows one mind to reach inside another mind and leave something there. An idea, a feeling, a way of seeing something differently. And every time you use language well to say something true, to connect with someone, to share something that matters, to help someone understand something they could not see before, you are using the most powerful tool our species has ever had. The version of you that exists without language is not worse. It is not less worthy. But it is profoundly different. It has no name, no story, no plans, no dreams articulated, no guilt, no hope. No inner voice commenting on the sunset. And the version of you that exists with language is complicated, is anxious sometimes, has an inner critic that can be cruel, worries about things that may never happen, but also hopes, plans, loves in ways that compound over time, makes things mean something. Language made you possible, the specific you, with the specific name and the specific history and the specific dreams and the specific way you see the world that nobody else sees in exactly the same way. Nobody else in the history of the universe has had your inner monologue, your specific sequence of thoughts and words and images and feelings. That inner voice, for all its faults, is entirely yours. Unrepeatable, unprecedented, gone when you go. Which means the next time the inner voice is being cruel to you, remember this. That voice is a tool, a powerful tool, but a tool that can be used better, a tool that can be directed, a tool that when used well is the most extraordinary thing in the known universe, a mind that can reach across time and touch other minds, a mind that can make experience mean something, a mind that can look at the world and find words for what it sees, and in finding those words make that seeing real for someone else. Without language, none of this exists. Not the world you live in, not the person you are, not the thoughts you are having right now about what I am saying. Not the feeling, if you have it, that something here is true. Language is not something you have. It is something you are. It is woven so deeply into what you are that asking what you would be without it is like asking what fire would be without heat. The question dissolves the thing. Right now, you are thinking in words. You have been thinking in words your entire life, and somewhere in human history, an ancestor of yours made a sound that meant something, and another person heard it and understood. And in that moment, everything changed. Everything that you are began.